So 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, guys. Welcome again to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd related media. This is our episode 7, A Dance of Sabers. And yes, we took that a little bit from Game of Thrones, but all's fair in nerddom. Okay? So just deal with it. So, Goose, you had some questions to ask?
I did have some questions. It's interesting that you would mention the topic of the show because, as you very well mentioned, we are going to discuss lightsabers. But before going into lightsabers, Little Bird told me that apparently you have committed to your promise to our viewers and have actually been watching the Clone Wars. And apparently you are past season 1.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I have to admit it was a struggle to get through season 1. They fireflied the crap out of that season.
You watched the movie too, or did you?
No, I didn't watch the movie. I skipped the movie.
Good.
It was just whenever you started to get into a story, they'd be like, the fight has to continue, and then they would change the arc, usually followed by like a horrible Padme or Jar Jar episode. And I was just so distraught that it was a real struggle. And then towards the end, it started to get a little bit better. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going and go into season 2. And I'm almost done with season 2 already. Because already,
it's still not as good as like the other seasons, but that's
I know it's even better after 3, and then it just continues to get better. So already with the comparison, just from season 2, I'm already actually excited. I mean, I got to meet Satine. And almost cried from the whole thing. It was just, my heart. Oh, Obi-Wan.
It was exactly right.
It's the Satine thing. I don't remember like if what happens to her happens in that same season that she's introduced, or if it happens afterwards.
Don't want spoilers, so I have no idea.
Let's not spoil it because.
That's why I'm trying to be as cryptic as possible, because like, I don't want to ruin.
Well, she's still good. There were 3 episodes on Mandalore, and it's they're at the Death Watch now. So
okay,
we haven't gotten full into Mandalore.
So yes, there's still not. Yes, there's another.
You still don't know the whole background or anything. They're still very episodic. The longest arcs are usually like 3 episodes, but it's already so much better than I was expecting. The art got better too, the animation, and it finally grew on me where I actually like it. The way they use the lightsabers is awesome.
So what you're saying is that we were right.
Yes, you were right. For years, I've been being a bitch about this, and all of you guys were right. So I'm sorry, proven correct.
And it's only gonna improve. It's the best part.
And even already, just with what I've seen, I mean, the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's what we wanted from the prequels.
Yeah.
Just in what I've seen, because in the prequels, he still treats him like a child. So when we get to the lightsaber fight, that he calls him a brother, it's not really believable because he always treated him like a child. But in the show, you actually see that they are like brothers. And you actually see Anakin not only being a good pilot and a good everything, but a good tactician in general. All these things that we expected to see from the prequels that we never got to see. So
and his relationship with Ahsoka too is just like
all of it. I know. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I will continue. Now I'm like slightly obsessed. So I will continue to binge watch, and I will keep you posted as we go on.
That sounds awesome.
And then you can obviously, after you're done, move on to Rebels. And
Rebels, yes. I will watch Rebels too.
Rebels is just, it's so good, but for way different reasons.
Okay.
Because I actually had this like similar apprehensions that you had with Clone Wars. For me, like I was kind of taken aback with Rebels because of the animation style.
Okay, because you got used to the Clone Wars, and then the animation style for Rebels, you were like...
Yeah, because for Rebels, it just feels too cartoony for my liking.
Okay.
And like, I don't know, like it took a long time for me to kind of warm up to Rebels and just kind of get over it. But like, I'm doing a rewatch now, and it's the show. It's good. It's good.
I thought you were going to wait for me.
I
took too long.
I can do a rewatch. Fine. But there's a fun fact actually that I neglected to mention, which is apparently Mo's screen froze. He just texted us, even though I see him moving.
Yeah, because I see you.
But the fun fact is, though, that allegedly podcasts that like reach episode 7 and keep going are podcasts that last longer, statistically speaking. So this is the magic number episode for us.
Well, technically, it could be like 6.5. we
Yes.
kind of cheated. Oh, no.
Well, yeah, but we were also guests on another one. So
True.
It was consensual cheating though. It wasn't like
So it
there's
makes
such a thing.
there goes my
So
hair.
it makes it all right. Exactly.
as long as there's consent.
As long as
Consent is all that matters. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, getting to the actual topic, we want to talk about the lightsaber fights that we've been saying that we're gonna do.
Laser sword fights. If you're George Lucas.
Yes.
Laser swords.
I think the best way to do it would be to just go movie per movie, starting episode 1 and going through them and just discuss them. Because if we just start saying favorites from the beginning, we're just gonna get sidetracked and ignore probably a bunch of saber fights.
I see one problem with discussing one particular lightsaber fight that I know Mo and I will want to discuss, and it's gonna be like spoiler filled for you.
It's just one.
It's fine.
It's just the one. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I know there's some of the animated ones, and I was debating just watching them on YouTube, the clips, but I don't really want to see them out of context. So I don't mind you talking about it. I just didn't want to see them out of context and just comment about how cool they look, because it's not enough that they look cool. They have to be taken in context. So,
That's true.
So I skipped them, and then you can talk about those, and I'll talk, about the movie ones, and then we can like add in some elements once we get to the timeline where Clone Wars and Rebels is. We can probably do it after Attack of the Clones. We can talk about those. If it's okay with you guys.
Again. Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. So I think we should go chronologically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I agree.
10. That doesn't exist. But
Yet. 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm hedging my bets in 10 years, episode 10. We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's start with episode 1.
With Phantom Menace.
Extremely iconic lightsaber battle, the one that will live in infamy. The moment when those doors open and Darth Maul whips out the lightsaber, turns on one blade, and all of a sudden the second blade ignites. I remember my mind exploding. I'm like, what the fuck? Lightsabers can
every
have
time
two
I
blades?
see it. Still, every time I see it.
Chills.
Goosebumps. No, and they're like very genuinely about it. If you see it, they all take off their robes.
Yes.
Like peacefully, and then you see like Darth Maul's and then the second lightsaber comes out, it's like,
yeah. And I just like also when he starts the fight, like you can hear him like concentrate and just like exhale, like, and start the fight like super. Okay, this shit's going down. I gotta focus.
It's very ceremonial. It's very ceremonial.
Like, it was like I think I like that how they built it up to be like the first fight of a Jedi and Sith in millennia.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can feel that gravitas. Like, yes, this is the fight that you were.
Yeah. From the beginning, when you see him hooded, and you had like that little taste of him fighting, but only with the one side in Tatooine. But then there's just this aura of menace just with his cowl on, and then as he takes it off, it's just this. We were watching it. I watched it with my husband, and he was like, "Damn, Darth Maul was so underused. He is so intimidating."
I'm so glad that they brought him back for Clone Wars, for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
But anyway, let's talk about the actual fight. I still think it's one of the best choreographed fights as well.
Yeah, especially because like it's in something that I think I'm gonna keep mentioning once we talk about other fights. But like for me, I think one of the hallmarks of like a good choreography for a lightsaber fight, or any fight for that matter, is that for me particularly, I don't want it to feel choreographed. Even though obviously it is, but like it needs to feel very visceral and like aggressive, and like you need to actually see that it's a fight instead of a choreography. So that's why I really like that fight as opposed to other fights in the prequels, because it feels like they're fighting and it feels like it's real.
There's a sense of urgency and you're afraid and
Yes. Yep. And it's also like a very beautiful fight. Like you can see like all the stages, like you can see like the angst of the dark side, just like Darth Maul pacing in that scene when they're just waiting to attack each other. Yeah. And then you have Qui-Gon who just
piecing each other up.
Yeah. Then Qui-Gon just like meditates. Yeah. Just like you will expect what a Jedi Master will do. And then you have
Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, who is still a
He's
Padawan
like
at
he's
this
still a
point.
Padawan. He's angsty, but at the same time, like he's not as angsty as like
Anakin.
Darth Maul or Anakin,
Or Anakin.
for that matter. Yes.
For that matter, just pointing it out.
And then all that emotion, and then that like Obi-Wan almost like when he slices Darth Maul, it's almost like he's tasting also the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Because
yeah,
it's an act
He
of
gets
revenge.
into anger.
Yeah, it's an act of revenge.
Yeah, no, we need to get to that part too. That's really important. They become separated, and then obviously with the force fields and stuff, and you see right before they open for Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon is basically meditating. He's ready to transcend probably there.
Yeah.
Like he knows it's gonna happen. He's like centering himself, gets defeated, and then Obi-Wan is the complete opposite. He's just raging anger, just pacing the cell, waiting for it to happen. And I don't think without that rage, he would have been able to beat Darth Maul, which calls into question the whole don't feel anger, don't do this, don't do that. I don't think without it, he would have been able to defeat him.
That's why balance is important. And of course, that's why the Jedi need to end. But then Cristeria and JJ
which
ruined it. Yeah.
It calls into Revenge of the Sith. We will talk about too when Obi-Wan says only the Sith deal in absolutes, which is
Isn't that
false.
an absolute statement,
the
bro?
Jedi deal in absolutes all the time too.
Yeah.
So it's the contradiction, and obviously this is the other fight that disproves the high ground theory. He didn't have the high ground from a certain point of view. You could do it as in he was this way, and then Darth Maul was below him, and yay, Obi-Wan. High ground theory.
And it's the only time we ever see Obi-Wan wield a green lightsaber, which I always thought was fun. When like he
uses
takes Qui-Gon's lightsaber to cut Maul in half, in twain. But
which is also very cool that he kills him with his master's saber. It's kind of I don't know, it's very cool.
Which I was kind of always wondered, like whatever happened to this kind of side thing, but like whatever happened to like Qui-Gon's lightsaber. Well, my head canon has always been, I know I've discussed this before or not, but my head canon has always been that like Obi-Wan obviously kept that lightsaber and it was in his hut in Tatooine, and then when Luke was building his new lightsaber, the kyber crystal that he used to power his new lightsaber was Qui-Gon's old crystal, and that's why he has a green lightsaber.
Nice.
Because it's Qui-Gon's kyber crystal. It's not confirmed, obviously. This is head canon.
But it will make
until they disprove it.
Circle.
Exactly.
Oh my god, but that makes so much sense.
Like mythologically, it also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, mythologically, everything, it makes so much sense, and it'd be completely epic, by the way. But I remember actually when we finished watching it, and I hadn't seen the prequels in a while, and I was like, wait, what happens to Qui-Gon's? Does he actually keep using it? And then in my head, I was like, no, he keeps using the blue one. So whatever did happen to it, I hadn't really thought about that much until I started like analyzing the different saber fights. So
he builds a new blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
What happens to all the green lightsabers? They just disappear, and then nobody knows.
There's some hatred with green lightsabers in
I don't understand
Star Wars,
why.
which is the best lightsaber in my opinion. I just love green lightsabers.
Green looks one of the coolest in the dark. Like red. Yeah. Red and green look awesome. Obviously, Mace Windu's purple lightsaber is just amazing too. Oh, yeah. So
Samuel L. Jackson's like, I just want a purple lightsaber.
One of the few things that like I don't like about Last Jedi is when Luke is fighting Kylo Ren, he doesn't use the green lightsaber. It's just like, I understand why he technically uses the blue one. I get it, Ryan, but you're wrong. You should have used the
I get it, but you're wrong. Okay.
Anyway. But going back to the episode 1 fight, it's so well orchestrated too, because like
and the score.
Oh my god! How did I not even think about that? Good point.
Oh yeah, the score. Yeah.
I mean, it's John Williams. He does not disappoint. He always does good.
But he managed to bring a new score to an already established classic and make it resonant to those movies. And just, it's amazing. That I will say is to this day still one of my favorite lightsaber battles.
And already good fight is just augmented.
Yep. Like,
Okay, so now let's get to the topic that none of us want to get to.
Attack of the Clones. Does that even count? That's not a
it does count because it's you do have now you do again 2 Jedis at the beginning, 2 Jedis against 1 Sith Lord. You have Anakin and Obi-Wan against Count Dooku, and then immediately Anakin screws up. It's like, oh, let's do this together. No, I'm going by myself.
It was so bad.
Gets destroyed.
Such a bad fight.
Gets destroyed. Obi-Wan gets destroyed. They shoot it in a way where sometimes you don't even see their maneuvers. Like it's just like the face and lightsaber shadows, and it's.
Oh, I think that looked cool, but like it was like so they're just waving their lightsaber. They're not hitting each other. It's just like it just looked cool, but it was stupid.
It's like it makes no sense. And then Yoda shows up, and then
Yoda.
And then I remember because they always said how Yoda was one of the strongest, if not the strongest, lightsaber wielder. Mm-hmm. And then you see when he opens his boat, pulls the lightsaber using the Force, and you're like, yes, oh my God, finally! And then he starts jumping around like a little monkey, and I was like, what?
Yeah, like I remember when I saw the movie for the first time. Obviously, I was considerably younger.
Yeah.
So that thing blew my fucking mind. I'm like, what the fuck? This is the coolest thing ever. After rewatching, it's just like, no, that was the dumbest thing ever.
That was
like
the dumbest thing ever.
Yoda should never have used a lightsaber. Period.
He could have. He was supposed to be good, but he could like control it with the Force.
Yeah.
Or something, just like sitting there meditating and like using it with the Force.
Fighting,
exactly.
That would be amazing.
How epic would that have been? And then I have a major issue with this because then Count Dooku drops the pillar and Yoda's struggling massively with this like one random pillar when, you know, at his almost dying age, he's lifting X-Wings like they're nothing. And suddenly this causes him strain and makes Dooku get away. Like, I don't know, none of the fight makes sense.
Maybe he was out of practice. Maybe he hadn't lifted rocks in a while.
Yeah.
He's kind of busy with, managing the Jedi Council. There's probably a lot of paperwork that goes into being the Grand Master of the Jedi Council.
Managing a war.
Yeah, he's busy. He's busy.
No,
he ain't got time to practice rock lifting.
This is also, the first time that Anakin loses a limb, and it's totally underrated.
Shit, he lost basically the whole.
Yeah, the whole thing, but it's not. It's not cathartic. It's not anything. He loses a limb. He falls down. He passes out. It's a terrible movie in general, but the fight is just completely underwhelming.
Although we get to see a bunch of lightsabers raging and raving.
Yeah, in the arena. Yeah.
In the arena.
Yeah.
Which in theory is cool, but like it didn't live up to the expectation of hundreds of Jedi kicking ass. It's just like a lot of them went down like punks.
Yeah. No, and I've said this before, and you say it's like it's numbers. Fine, they were overwhelmed, but
it was numbers. Yes.
It's true.
We could have seen a little bit, like 300.
But you could have some of them are getting destroyed by like one blaster shot. It's like, oh, there he goes. There goes the lightsaber. Oh, it's like no.
Yeah.
And then going now to Clone Wars, because I saw them fight when they retake Geonosis. Now that's a fight. And there were way less really Jedi.
Good lightsaber fights.
Yeah. And that was way less Jedi when they retake Geonosis, like 3 generals and like a couple Padawans. Not this shit full of I know. I get it now. I'm kind of obsessed. I'm sorry. The Clone Wars is what the prequels should have been. It's true. That's what we wanted. Because I remember when we watched the prequels, we grew up hearing about the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars, like what happened, this huge thing. And then you watch the prequels and it's like, there's like a couple battles that happen. Like what happens to the rest of the Clone Wars? Like I don't get it. So
I mean, to be fair, the movies aren't about the Clone Wars. The movies are
I know it's the setting up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the politics involved and everything, and I get it, but
the show lives up to it. And it's surprisingly for like an animated show. I was very surprised by the quality of a lot of the lightsaber fights in.
For Clone
Wars. Yeah.
Clone Wars, yeah. No, I mean the movements in general are kind of amazing. I love Ahsoka's fighting style.
Oh yeah,
I think it's one of my favorites.
Lights, yeah.
I think they did a really good job. Yeah. Oh, I'm just starting. Fine. You finally got me to admit that I like it. Leave me alone.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Well, the thing is, like, one of the best lightsaber fights, in my opinion, in the whole canon happens in season 7. Like the last
I heard
lightsaber
season
fight
7 is
between.
like ridiculously amazing. Yeah.
It's some of the best Star Wars out there for sure. But like that lightsaber battle between like Ahsoka and Darth Maul in season 7, holy shit! I mean, it's epic because the choreography of it is amazing, but also like the background of it, where they actually got Ray Park back to do the motion capture for Darth Maul. So yeah, so the OG Darth Maul came back to do the final lightsaber fight.
That is super cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they actually motion captured that lightsaber battle. So like the movements you see is actually actors fighting, and you get actual Darth Maul playing Darth Maul.
It's like Darth Maulception.
Yes, it's the ultimate Maul.
Ultimate Maul.
Because then you have Sam Witwer, which is the voice of Darth Maul, and then Ray Park combined to be the one Maulness.
The one with the Maul.
There goes my hair.
One with the Maul, yes. Oh my god, so good. That lightsaber fight's really amazing. Wait till you get to that one. We might have to rethink the rankings that we'll do like
after I see those. Okay.
Yeah. We'll have to do a quick recap.
Yeah. After I get to the animated versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's actually serendipitous the way we seg to talk about Clone War fights, because that fits very neatly between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So what about how do we feel about Revenge of the Sith lightsaber fights?
I think it's a dance. It goes with our title.
A dance.
You get. It's beautiful in its own way. It doesn't look like a battle. It just looks like I'm just flipping around gold like light sticks.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you have a couple in Revenge, because you have Obi-Wan against Grievous, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
With the 4 lightsabers. That was the little stupid. You have at the beginning, you have Anakin versus Count Dooku, where he kills him, where he starts to go into the dark side, and then you have that iconic again, like what happens later in Return, when you have Sidious sitting there witnessing the new apprentice killing the older apprentice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's something cathartic of.
Good point.
Yeah, which is what he tries to do with Darth and Luke in Return, sitting there egging on who he wants to be the new apprentice to kill the older.
Good. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
That's very good. And he's sitting in the same chair.
And it's the same chair. This time he's like restrained, but he's not restrained because he's not a hostage, because he is the Emperor.
Yes.
And
he's just like, I'm playing this out.
Yeah. And it's the first time, at least.
No matter who loses, he wins.
And this is the first time, at least, in the movies, that Anakin goes against the Jedi Code, kills somebody who's already restrained, which, again, you don't see the transition enough. Already with what I've seen from Clone Wars, you already see Anakin using the chokehold, killing people from behind just because it's for the greater good, in his opinion. I mean, you actually see his transition more fully developed. And in the movies, it's just like he's being egged along because he wants to save Padme. I don't think it's not enough to justify his turn to the dark side.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it wasn't just about saving Padme. That was the beginning.
Agreed.
So
that's just like the cherry on top.
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously the one at the end, which I know is one, a lot of people think it's their favorite, the one on Mustafar. I'm actually not that big of a fan of the Mustafar fight.
It's interesting you say that, because actually a couple weeks or months, like, I don't know, time is weird with COVID. So like, I don't know when this happened. Sometime in the past, like I saw on Twitter, there was like a well, actually I do know when it happened, because what I will say now confirms when it happened. There was a March Madness, a March Madness bracket for lightsaber fights in the Star Wars canon, and like the fight I expected least to win won, and it was that one, the Obi-Wan Mustafar fight with Anakin, and in the back of my mind I was like, how can people choose that fight over the Phantom Menace one? I was
over Phantom, over Empire, over Return.
Yeah, because for me, like, that lightsaber fight, it's what Mo was, what you were saying. It felt like a dance. It was a choreography. It didn't feel like they were actually hitting each other. It was just flashy moves, but no, it didn't feel like a fight.
It does at the beginning, though. That's my problem with it, because at the beginning you kind of feel the threat. Anakin just like chokeholded the crap out of his wife, his pregnant
without
wife.
consent.
Without consent.
Without consent.
So no bueno.
No bueno. And then suddenly blaming Obi-Wan for everything, which is the transition that I still honestly don't understand how it goes from one to another in 5 minutes in the movie.
You have done that yourself. Like the acting.
No, and even Padme, you're breaking my heart.
Actually, I think that was good. Like, that always gets to me when she says
it. I hate that. Yeah, I actually hate that. Anyway, I think it breaks.
It gets really cartoony. You're right. Like at the beginning, like there's
it
more
starts
stakes,
really cool. You see some really good like fight scene like between them. You kind of start to feel the catharsis, and then it just becomes this homage to looking cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
Exactly.
Instead of, because it is important, the background with the lava and everything, because this is like his rage, his destruction, how he like burns. But then when they start jumping around and swinging on cables,
it's just like
they start swinging on cables, guys, with their lightsabers like in the air.
That type of shit always reminds me of the Jeff Goldblum quote from Jurassic Park. You were so worried about if you could that you didn't stop to think if you should. It's like, you can do it, but does it really, is it really contributing to anything here?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And then it's cool because you go through all the different stages, and you could have had it. Don't make the whole thing fall apart. Just do it like on a walkway with the volcano and everything, all the lava in the background, and then you're fine. And then at the end, after everything, it ends with, "I have the high ground. Don't try it." It's
like I can imagine that they just ran out of ideas. It's like, fuck it, just end the fight.
It's like you, Obi-Wan, you haven't had the high ground in most of your fights, and you still win them. And suddenly it's a thing. It's Obi-Wan high ground. It gives him extra powers. It's a boost.
It is a total boost.
It's ridiculous. And then you
Obi-Wan
destroy him.
BS.
And then you destroy him, and then you just leave him there to burn. And it's like, you're my
weird.
brother, which you don't really believe in the movies. Like I was saying before, you don't really believe it because he never really treated him like a brother in the movies. So.
And the acting was good though. Like I believe
the acting was good.
Ewan's delivery.
Yeah, Ewan did great. I mean, I kind of want to cry every time I see it just because of Obi-Wan's heartbreak.
Yeah.
But
which is weird though that he's like saying all that shit while watching Stumpy Anakin burn
slowly
to death.
Yeah, without limbs on the ground. I mean,
like no mercy killing or anything.
So. Exactly. There's no putting him out of his misery. It's just like, no, I'm just gonna cry a little bit and just leave.
No, and the whole point that it has to be me because he's gonna be super dangerous. I'm just gonna walk away while he's still breathing. And
burning in agony.
Yeah. And just, let him survive under massive pain, which is gonna make him even more dangerous because now he's really full of hate.
He's really angry.
Like,
angry boy.
It's like if you're gonna do it, mercy kill. Know that you've finished the job, I guess, too.
Yeah, Obi-Wan messed up.
Obi-Wan messed up.
He
But of course, you can't have it any other way because Darth Vader precedes the movies. So
yeah, true. But that's one of those things where it's just like it feels like they had to do it. Like he wrote it that way because he had to tie into. I know.
Yeah, like you could have had him like fall off or something, and Obi-Wan doesn't even know where he goes, and it's like, oh, okay, I finished him.
Yeah,
and then
which is one of those interesting things that they went with doing such an acrobatic and flashy fight for them, because then movie that follows it directly in A New Hope, their lightsaber fight was anything but flashy and acrobatic. It was two old guys just poking at each other with sticks. Which, like, I get it. Alec Guinness was an old man. I didn't have budget for like a big fight. But like
they kind of figured out lightsabers randomly too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like this random idea. It's like, I want swords, and then they have it like poking at each other. It's just. But at the end of the day, even if it's like that, there's still meaning in that fight.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, and even that shot when they're trying to run away and you can see them through the door, just standing opposing each other, it still looks amazing to this day.
Oh yeah, well, lightsabers are cool.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and I thought it was really hilarious because I had rewatched all the episode ones.
Yes.
For the podcast, but my husband wasn't, and then I made him watch all the lightsaber fights with me, and we started chronologically with the prequels, and then as soon as the prequel started, it's like, oh my god, you're right. You complain about it so much, and I tell you to stop complaining, but the CGI just did not hold up.
Yeah.
This looks terrible. And then when we got to A New Hope, which is, choreographically like one of the worst fights in the whole thing, and then as soon as it shows up, my husband was just like, oh, actual props instead of CGI. I feel so refreshed.
I mean, it's a balance,
looks better.
right?
It looks better. It's from 1977 and it still looks better than the prequels. Sorry.
Well, it's balanced because the sequels have lots of CGI, but it's still also practical.
It's practical.
So,
they balance it more with the new
There's a good balance there. But yeah, I don't know if there's any too much more to say about like that fight in A New Hope. I mean, obviously we could spend all day deconstructing them, but I don't think.
Did I remember right? Isn't like did Obi-Wan's lightsaber like kept like getting shorter and like flickering?
Yeah, because they were trying to play with like lights, and so sometimes when it moved in a certain angle in the movie, it kind of.
So for the longest time, like I thought that had to do with him losing like contact with the Force. Like to me, like
you transcended it. Like you started thinking about.
Yeah, no. Like when I as long as I remember, I remember as a child telling my siblings like, yeah, no, that's because Obi-Wan is dying. That's why the lightsaber is like.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
No, but what is cool,
so
it's
like
now.
Yeah,
now
that's
you
not true,
see,
but I like it.
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, George Lucas wrote the originals too, but if he did it on purpose, that it's almost the same pose that Qui-Gon had before facing Darth Maul when he finally realizes that he's gonna go. So you get this moment of like he was really angry last time he fought a Sith, and this time he's taking Qui-Gon's stance right before he, joins.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because we will discuss something related to that when we talk about a fight in Rebels.
Okay.
Because Obi-Wan does do something similar to what you just implied.
Okay.
So you're not far off. That's the thing.
Oh, that's the thing. Okay. Well, do you want to talk about the animated ones now? Because I think we're getting away from the timeline for those now.
I mean, it's a good point, I guess, to talk about that one. We already talked a little bit about some of the Clone Wars ones. I mean, I don't think we want to talk about too in depth about everything. As long as we'll just be here hours and hours on end. But like the one lightsaber fight from, because I actually am not a big fan of the lightsaber fights from Rebels. I feel like they're, again, too cartoony for my taste.
Okay, it's
but there is, but yeah, well, yeah, it just, and I don't like that they animated the lightsabers real skinny instead of like like they're normally animated in the movies and Clone Wars. But that's besides the point.
They made them really thin.
Yeah, I didn't dig that. So whatever. The point is, there is one lightsaber fight in that show that I think takes the cake, and it's for the opposite reasons that we probably like the Phantom Menace. It's because it's not a flashy fight, but it's the fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul in the desert on Tatooine. Their final confrontation. I think Mo, I think you would do a better job at explaining that one than I would.
I think why, at least on my why I love that fight is because it's so simple and so elegant at the same time. Like you have this whole Darth Maul coming to. I've been searching for Obi-Wan since the past I don't know how many years.
Yeah. Since you cut me in half.
Since you shot me in half and threw me down a pit. And then you have.
I'd be angry too.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't blame him.
and then you have this Obi-Wan that's just doing that last mission. I'm just protecting Luke on Tatooine. I went from being with Satine and being at the High Council to just living as a desert rat.
Yeah.
and it's such a short fight. You have, that interaction between. I don't want to like spoil it for you, Nani, because
it's fine. It's fine.
so good.
Just talk about it. It's good. No, it's fine. Just talk about it.
Well, I don't remember the actual dialogue per se. I do remember just.
Well, the dialogue was good because what you said is actually like you quoted it almost directly, because Darth Maul goes to Obi-Wan, and obviously he's an old man in the desert, and Darth Maul tells Obi-Wan, "Look what you've become, a rat in the desert." And then like Obi-Wan responds saying, "No, look what I've risen above," like implying that like he has transcended the place that like Darth Maul is still stuck at, whereas Darth Maul has not progressed and stays within his hatred for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan has transcended his hate and the place in life where he is, where he's in a higher plane. Even though he's a rat in the desert, he's still at a higher position in life than Darth Maul could ever be at. So I was like, oh shit! Like it was like
that is so good.
You know what you're doing, man.
Yeah. And then like through Rebels, you see that Darth Maul is. I mean, and you see that in Clone Wars, he's a very skilled lightsaber. So they're just about to fight, and then the battle just ends in a flash of a few seconds.
No, okay, seriously, you have to get moving, because now I have to binge watch some more Clone Wars.
Yeah. Yes.
You're very much upsetting me right now. Just saying.
Good, but that's a good type of upsetting, I hope. But it's so good because it's them staring at each other, like having the fight in their minds basically, and then like a couple of moves and it's done, and Obi-Wan just cuts him down.
No, and imagine the difference back then, because the first time he faced Maul, I mean, he was a Padawan, and he was actually filled with a lot of anger, like we talked before, and he kills his master, but Obi-Wan becomes, something else. Yeah. I mean, Obi-Wan does transcend everything. I mean, he communes with Qui-Gon to find, the essence of the Force and everything. That's what he was doing in the desert. He wasn't just a rat. Yeah. He was trying to commune with the Force.
Mm-hmm. And you see it at the end of that fight.
Because damn it. I can't believe it took me this long to watch it. I'm so mad at myself right now, honestly.
Like right after like the blow, like Obi-Wan just like cradles, holds him, Darth Maul on his last breath, just like I understand. And I think there's even like I don't remember really well, but there might even be like a glimmer of like hope, like a spark before Darth Maul.
Like maybe I forgive you.
Well, I think that like Obi-Wan forgives him, but I think that scene is interesting because like it still shows where they're at, where like Obi-Wan takes his mortal enemy and like cradles him and comforts him in as he passes in death, but Darth Maul is still focused on revenge. And the last thing that like Darth Maul asks Obi-Wan during his final moments is if he's watching over the chosen one, i.e. Luke. And then he's thinking is like, okay, I'm dying, but if you're watching over Luke, that means that he will avenge us. He's still thinking about revenge. Wow. And even in his dying breath, instead of, kind of getting over that shit. But before, I wanted to tell you, Nani, because you had mentioned this like during the A New Hope fight. The cool thing that I think you would appreciate when that fight starts is that like Obi-Wan goes through like the different stages of his life before the fight starts, with like the different stances.
His stances?
Yes. So he starts with the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan stance, like with the finger thing and like ready for battle, like confrontational. And then he's like, wait, that's incorrect. And then he moves into like the Qui-Gon stance from Phantom Menace, and then he's like goes even beyond that, and then goes into the Alec Guinness position to start the fight, which is like ultimate transcendence of Obi-Wan. So he goes through all those stages in his stances. So you see him evolve through the fight, and the fight takes place in their mind, basically. Yeah. And the way that Obi-Wan defeats him is because Darth Maul tries to use the same trick on Obi-Wan that he did on Qui-Gon of hitting him with the shin. But obviously Obi-Wan's too smart for that shit, so he just cuts him down because he sees that coming. Because again, Darth Maul is in the same place.
Yeah, that
he was then, and Obi-Wan.
He was cut in half. I mean, you gotta give some slack. He got cut in half.
He got robot legs. I don't know how he poops, but maybe that's why he's angry. He can't eat I mean, how can you eat if you can't?
What's with all his internal organs? Because he got literally cut in half. It's not like they got his legs off. He got cut in half.
He lost a lot of stuff. So I'd be angry. So I'll cut him slack for that. No pun intended.
I really wish they could have fleshed him out in the movies before they did all of this. Like actually get some kind of motivation, because you get a little bit of motivation from Count Dooku. I don't really sympathize with Dooku, but you get at least a little bit of backstory. But with Maul, you have no idea how he ended up being his apprentice, why, nothing. I mean,
cool,
I don't know if
I like.
You think it's cool? You like the not knowing?
Yeah, some things are better not knowing. Just like with Solo, it's like I didn't need this. Whatever, we'll discuss Solo at a different episode.
Okay, so next we're getting to the good stuff. Empire.
Good stuff. The best lightsaber fight, in my opinion. Empire.
Well, one, we actually have to talk about, and even if it's very short, we have to talk about Luke fighting Darth in the cave in Dagobah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very short, but it's very transcendent because he's been terrified of Vader.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he goes into the cave and Yoda's like, you don't need weapons in there. This is like in your head. And he's so terrified that he takes the lightsaber anyway. And then you see this short fight in the dark and he cuts off his head. I mean, it's not like he slashes, he cuts off Vader's head.
Anger.
Yeah. And then you see the melting off, and obviously it's his own face, which still really creeps me out the way it's shot. But it's important to like his mentality, because very shortly after that is that he gets the message that Han and Leia are in trouble and he decides to leave.
Yeah.
So it speaks a lot, I think, to his psychological mindset before he goes and faces Vader for the first time.
Which I think it's one of the reasons like those lightsaber fights, even though they're not maybe as flashy as like the prequel ones, I think they're inherently better because they serve a purpose to move the story forward and like have character development, which I think makes them even more powerful in a way because there's stakes to them. There's a point to that fight, and it's not to jump around, run swinging from cables. The
cables kill me. Anyway, so now to get into the actual lightsaber fight at the end, I still think it's one of the best ones as well.
Oh yeah, it's set up so great. Oh, like a video game almost. Like you go into the final level to fight the final boss, and everything lights up. The Force is with you, young Skywalker.
Everything. It's all dark, and then it lights up, and then you have the pit because it's all a trap, and then Luke knows it, but he goes in anyway, and Darth is just like, we were discussing this because we're going to get into Return, and my husband says that Return is better because but he says that the reason that it's better is because you actually see Luke actually being a threat in that one, and in Empire, Darth Vader is toying with him the entire fight. And he kind of is. He's kind of toying with him and taunting him the entire fight. He never really takes him seriously until the very end, which I think actually makes it better and even more terrifying. He got a blow in, but it's not, you don't see Darth trying that hard, which I think makes it even more terrifying that Darth is barely trying and is still kicking his ass. And the Empire fight to the Return fight, was it something about how...
Oh, no, it's just kind of like a joke.
I want to hear. You have the best words.
I do not, but it was just like kind of like maybe in his mind, just Vader saying like, "Oh, this is the first time I'm playing with my child." Like I'm just like,
like actually playing.
I'm just having fun with my kid. Like
I'm just having fun with my kid.
I mean, after so many years on the dark side, who knows what's Vader's definition of fun.
And if he was maybe actually having fun, who knows? But you still have a lot of really iconic scenes, and then he's really underestimating him from the beginning, and then he falls into the pit, and he's like, "Oh, I think the Emperor overestimated you," and then he jumps off, and it's like, "Ooh, impressive," It's just, and then obviously, just the way the fight is set up, the stairs, the look, the lighting, everything about that fight is really cool.
Iconic.
And then there's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. There's barely any words, and then when you get towards the end and then you actually see Vader trying, because like Luke is trying to run away, and then obviously because it is the burden of all Skywalker men except Ben to lose an arm.
Well, but Ben lost his life, so there you go.
And I really did.
They all lost their lives.
And they all lost their lives as well. Yes.
Sucks to be a Skywalker.
I know. But then obviously you get that moment, and now everybody knows what's gonna happen next. But the first time you see it,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, it's just mesmerizing.
Yeah.
But that's why I prefer that fight to the Return of the Jedi one, because the Return of the Jedi one, I mean, I understand what Wally was saying about like Luke actually being a threat to Vader, but like in terms of how the choreography of that fight is and like how the stakes feel, it's not as pressing, right, as The Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion, anyway.
I actually think it's more pressing at this point, because at this point,
it's supposed to be, but I don't feel it when I look at the fight.
Okay. You don't actually feel it from the fight.
No. It's just it doesn't feel as intense of a fight, at least to me, as the one in Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had a pet peeve with that fight, that the lightsabers don't cut through the handrails when like Luke hits them. It's just like, bro, the fuck.
Well, but that also
That's
happens.
a pet peeve.
I know, but that also happens in Empire when they're on the walkway.
It cuts through.
Are you sure?
Yes, it does. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I might be wrong.
That's why it pisses me off in Return.
Okay. Because it doesn't cut, and then he throws it and it cuts the walkway, so you know it's the works.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but there's something even more symbolic, I think, on the Return fight. Like you have Luke wearing all black, like up to here completely. You have just this, I don't want to fight you, but I do, and just, you know, both of them, because at this point Darth is actually starting to doubt himself and go a little bit more into the light side. He didn't really care that much in Empire. At this point he's actually caring a little bit more. And again, there's some iconic scenes too, because then now you have them both in black against each other, and then at the end of the fight, Luke, like, his jacket's a little bit open, there's white on it. So it's just this transition from one thing to another, just because he was very close to going dark side on that one too, and then he was way stronger than his father ever was, and he was like, I don't care, I'm not gonna fight you, I'm done.
Yep. No, I mean, I appreciate the symbolism of the fight, right? That's something that I can't argue against. More.
But visually, you still like Empire.
Visually, that's why I don't enjoy it as much, because it doesn't have that visceral impact of the fight itself to me that like Empire did, because it just feels like they didn't have money in that movie for like a good fight choreographer to hash it out well as they did in Empire. But you know, that's why we're talking about it.
No, but the Well, go.
No. It was just, I guess it reflects on who directed the movie. It reflects a little bit more on it's a little bit more flashy as well. Like, you get more sparks, you get more like ups and downs, but it still feels that there's a lot more, like what Nani was saying, like there's a lot more going on in that fight.
The Return one.
Yeah. And there's, you can see more like the significance of what the lightsaber actually means. I guess it's because in the other movies, apart from the prequel movie they talk about it, or the Clone Wars, but like what does the lightsaber represent? Like that's where, like in that movie you actually see, oh, this represents more than just, oh, it's just a Chinese sword to fire to defend myself with. It carries the weight of, am I gonna tip the scales to the dark side, or am I gonna just surrender and hope, just go for the hope? And that's what Luke did. So,
Well, then obviously the scene when he cuts off Darth Vader's hands and he sees the mechanical hand and then he thinks of himself and it's like, am I going to do this too? And I'm going to propagate the cycle of death that's been going on for forever. And then Luke was obviously stronger and he stopped it. And then Darth, who had completely denied that he had any emotions left whatsoever, couldn't take the fact that the Emperor was killing his kid. That, by the way, the Force lightning looks better in the original ones than the prequels. Just pointing that out. I think it does.
I don't mind.
I think it does. And then Darth finally standing up to the Emperor and being like, I don't care if this is for the greater good or not. I'm going to save my kid. It's something of the psychology in Darth Vader that he hadn't been able to break. He was so
which they ruined by adding that no.
I know. I hate the no, and then they didn't know. I don't know why they did that. I saw it again, and I was like, why did they add the no?
It's so much better when you're like at the edge of their seat.
Yeah.
Like, what's he gonna do? And then like
no, which is I hated the no at the end of Revenge of the Sith too. I hated that no. That no is one of the stupidest things James Earl Jones has ever said in his entire life, and then they re-added it.
Yeah, at least he got paid well for it, probably. So
it's not his fault. He just lends his voice. He has no choice over the editing reasons. It's not his fault that he has the voice of God, and then they misuse it. And they misuse it. Not his fault. And then they put it in appropriate places. You don't really need to know the ridiculous no at the end of Revenge. You don't need that. You don't need the no here when he throws the Emperor. Just grab him, go. That's it.
Done. No, but
it's out of character for Vader as well.
The no,
like shouting, like you have such a stoic character that rarely uses words,
and then he decides to use that one in particular.
That one, you.
Oh my God, making him a whiny bitch.
Yeah, I know.
That's all Skywalker men are apparently.
But I mean, I was rewatching it and I got really into it again, and then the no was just like, ugh, why?
Definitely distracting.
It
doesn't add
any value. It doesn't add any value to it, and it kind of distracts from it. It's just like, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Anyway.
But then we move on to The Force Awakens, and I think there was a bit of a renaissance there for lightsaber fights, because that lightsaber fight between Kylo Ren and Rey, I think, was exquisite. I still love that fight to this day. I think it's one of the better ones of the whole saga. And like tying back to what we were saying before about visual symbolisms and whatnot, that fight is, loaded with, especially that scene when they're like struggling, holding each other, and then Kylo's Rey's lightsaber's pointing up while Kylo's pointing down. Obviously, heaven and hell and good and evil, and in the forest. It's just like, it's such a visually stunning fight. And again, like, you feel the stakes, you feel every hit counts. So like, I don't know, it's still one of my top fights.
No, and I really thought in that hit that she took off his arm. I really did. Like all Skywalker men, they need to lose an arm.
He didn't get his arm chopped.
He didn't, but I thought he did.
Oh.
Like when I first saw the shot, I thought she cut his arm, and I was
Gotcha.
like, "Oh my god, it happened again!" And then didn't. And I was like, I couldn't decide if I was disappointed or not that he didn't lose his arm. Which
I'm glad he didn't, because then it just becomes a parody of itself. If they just keep doing the same shit all the time. Yeah, I love that fight.
No, and there's something beautiful about it. You forget that he starts fighting Finn first.
Yeah.
Yes.
That piece of the fight is, and that's it's beautiful. That's the one.
But it's the whole fight is. It's a very beautifully done fight. You can see the pain in Kylo's face, like he just killed Han, and he just destroyed. And this is why, and we've talked about it before. This is why I don't understand why people think that Rey was overpowered or something. You've already established at the beginning that she is overpowered. Like, she was able to like block Kylo Ren when he tries to mind read her. But this is my problem in general with the last trilogy, that you don't have like a gauge of whose powers is what, because you establish them as overpowered in ones and then kind of underpower them in others. So you don't really have a gauge of where anybody's power is. Like in the other ones, you can see growth in all the characters. You see Luke growing in strength one to the other. Even Anakin, you see his strength one to the other. And then these ones, it's like from the beginning, they're really strong. And then at the end, they're like randomly strong when it's needed to fit the story, I guess. I don't know.
I could see that. I can see that. I mean, I think it's more prevalent in a way with it's again JJ's fault because he established that with The Force Awakens. It's kind of like, well, you started from A, and you need to get to A, and you already started there. If that makes sense, you know. It's just,
no, I know what you mean.
So there's no. So I can see how there's no progression because you already started them at
no, or just continue it because sometimes you underpower them. I mean, and then we're gonna get to the end. Obviously, like you have that Kylo is the leader of the Knights of Ren, and then the Knights of Ren get destroyed in like 2 seconds in Rise.
Jumps.
I don't know. And then even in Force Awakens itself, you have Kylo Ren stopping in midair a laser blast as he continues to have a conversation, which is fantastic and makes him terrifying as hell. And then you kind of never do that again.
Well, they kind of do something similar in Rise of Skywalker when like he's holding off like her lightsaber off with the Force. That was pretty cool, but not as cool as stopping the laser bolt.
Yeah. So it's like you don't really gauge the level of their actual powers. It's kind of up in the air.
What if then playing like throwing the towel to the other side? What if what we're saying is that the Force is just based on that emotion that you're feeling at the moment? I guess because none of them had like an end goal. It was more like I just want to protect my friend. So maybe just that's how to express kind of like like real life scenarios like a child is like stuck and the mother's able to like lift some weight that's usually not
you get a surge of adrenaline.
Like you get that surge of what if it's just like the equivalent of the Force? You get that surge of like Force when it happened to be needed. Kind of and then you see that go throughout the movies. Because even at the end, like that pulling, I hate that scene, but the pulling of the chip, like
that's stupid. Yeah.
Oh my god. There is merit to that, obviously, but it just if it would have been established that way, I think it would have made more sense. Like
I'm just playing that here.
Yeah, I know you're playing. I know. You have the best words.
It's okay. No, Nani, stop. No, but.
I love it. Stop.
Okay, so let's get to Last Jedi,
which is one of my favorite lightsaber fights, even though it's the most different lightsaber fight because they don't actually fight. They just fight
before we get to the end fight, we have to talk about Rey and Kylo against the Praetorian Guard.
But can we talk about Finn versus the dude that just pulls the staff?
The traitor?
The traitor. and the Force Awakens.
Right. Oh, God,
that should get us a pseudo lightsabers. Shout out to that guy.
Shout out to that guy. And then they keep it up because then Kylo actually yells at him, traitor. As he grabs the lightsaber for the first time, which I'm
gonna remember who this random person is from the whole.
I really wish. They made Finn Force sensitive from the beginning. I think they should have developed that way more. I'm still upset about that. Honestly,
but I thought the seeds were there. I honestly thought, okay, Finn is totally Force sensitive, not a full-fledged Jedi or Sith.
But Force sensitive, and then go from there. And he's older, so you don't have to indoctrinate him because the Jedis really are not the good guys either. They grab kids from their homes and then indoctrinate them into a religion, and it's kind of sketchy.
They are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the whole Finn being Force sensitive though, because I don't know.
Why?
I don't like it because it's just like So he defected because of his force sensitivity. I kind of like that you don't need to have the force to.
No.
Cool
That's
thing.
just like.
No,
that's
I
just
think
like
they're not mutually exclusive. He could have just realized he was force sensitive after he left.
Yeah.
He left for his own reasons, and then after he left, he realizes he's force sensitive. We was just never exposed to it before.
Okay.
Like I feel like the event, the awakening of the force sensitives will be when they get in the Millennium Falcon. Like you have the same thing with Rey. They've never done this, but they somehow managed to.
And then they're suddenly exposed to it because they always thought it was a myth at this point. They're like, I thought this whole thing was a myth. What are you talking about?
And then right after that you get Han kind of like confirming them, like yes, this like the force is a real thing. Like so
Han, who was the first one who never actually accepted the force originally, who was like, this is hocus pocus, this is nothing. And then you have Han saying it to them. So
The tables have turned for him.
no, I think I agree with Mo, because sometimes you might have an inkling that you have an access to something, but until you get like a push from somebody like, no, this is actually a real thing, then you become more aware of the fact that you have this extra sense. So I don't think any of the theories could be discounted, because he kind of wielded that lightsaber pretty well. Finn.
He would have had training in the First Order to wield melee weapons. So,
Well, lightsaber is something else.
Wasn't he like a janitor?
I'm gonna. That was stupid. I don't know why they added that. It's just like, why would you need to say that? It's like the guy who used to mop it. Why add that? He's a stormtrooper. Don't say he's a janitor. Don't degrade him.
I know.
But
anyway, let's get to actual saber fights. So that saber fight, obviously, against the Praetorian Guard, which you said it's not really a lightsaber fight because they're not fighting each other; they're fighting against an enemy.
It's such a good fight.
It's such a good fight.
The scene. It's just perfect, like the red background. It's just filmed amazingly well. And then, like when the sparks going off, like from the fights and burning down the red curtain to reveal the background of space, and I love that fight.
Not just from the beginning, the setup of the fight and everything that's going on, and then when Kylo is secretly turning the lightsaber, and then they look at each other. She gets the lightsaber too, and then they turn and face each other, like their backs to protect each other. I still get goosebumps. It's like, okay, we're fighting together now, and it's such a it's the best one actually with two people together, because in all the other fights, when you have two Jedis against an opponent, they're kind of fighting in their own way. They're not necessarily combining their efforts. This is the first one, and Kylo isn't a good guy yet either, and you kind of get them to harmonize the fight. Like they fight each other, like they complement each other throughout the entire fight.
They are a dyad of the Force.
I know they are a dyad of the Force, but it's
which is another word for just the yin yang.
The yin and yang, the balance, unbalance. It's beautiful, and I wish they would have kept going with it, because you have a boy born from light that goes to the dark, even though he has dark in the background, but he was born from light and goes to the dark, and then a girl that we find out is Poppleton, but whatever, that is born from the dark and goes to the light, and then kind of balancing each other out and fighting together and kind of finding a balance together.
One of those things that work on paper, but just doesn't.
It wasn't well executed.
But that battle was like very cathartic. Like you get to see that complete perfect balance. Like this is what happens.
This is how we work. And then
very passionate fight too. They're fighting for each other in a way.
Very sensual.
Sexy.
It's
a sexy fight.
I would say in one of her videos.
Yeah. No, it is I would say the only really sexy fight.
Yeah.
Like actually
I didn't know that was possible, but
it was sexy. It was like you know, and I don't know. There's something I love about it.
It was like it was also like that mixture of like, instead of fight, instead of dance, are we like, are we interjecting both the aspects of like violence and like, because dances are pretty much like mating.
Yeah.
Like that's the.
Mm-hmm. No, but
So
it is. Yeah.
It's like that thin line of like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Like a ritual.
Yeah. It was a ritual. It was them getting to know each other. Like they've already extended the hands. They know there's something between them.
But they've barely been physically together, and then this
and then
time you get them, touching the backs, going off each other, and actually the fact that they're and the fact that they're aware of each other, because if you compare it again to when there's been other fights, in Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan gets knocked out, but Qui-Gon keeps going after Darth Maul. You don't see him like making sure that he's okay. I don't know if it's just because out of faith or he wants to do it alone, but in this fight, you actually see them looking at each other and what they're faced with. Yeah, it's like, I'm trapped, he's trapped, and then she throws the lightsaber at him to help him out because he's about to choke. And there's something very, I know, but there's something very, when you have two people completely working together, it makes you more powerful kind of sense that you got from that fight.
Yeah.
And then Rise happened.
That's some of the worst lightsaber battles.
But before we go to
talking,
Rise, we're talking The Last Jedi.
Okay, so let's finish with Last Jedi.
Yes.
Opinions, guys.
Well,
lightsaber fight.
Then there's the Kylo and Luke's lightsaber fight.
Right. Oh, I always forget about that.
Which I think is the better fight, actually. People forget it because people forget it because it's not as flashy. I think it is the better fight.
I mean, I like that fight for like the emotional stakes and what it represents, not so much the fight itself.
Right, but does that diminish or add to it? That you feel something more emotional for it, or that you think it looks cooler?
I mean, it's not mutually exclusive. I think.
I know. I'm just asking the question. Where does it outweigh how awesome it looks, that it's longer, or how it impacts you as you watch it? Because the fight with Kylo and Rey against the Praetorian Guard is fucking amazing, and you're cheering and you're awesome. But the fight with Kylo against Luke, you feel it in your heart. It stays with you.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been annoyed a little with that fight, and it's a pet peeve just because he's using the blue lightsaber instead of the green one. But that's besides the point.
Come on, stop being so petty.
I know. I am petty with some things.
There's something. I mean, the first time I watched that fight, I remember you start seeing him, and then I was like, why is he younger? Like, what's going on? Did they just forget the fact that he got old and now he's younger? And then at first I thought he was just in Leia's mind, and then you see that everybody else sees him, and I was like, so he's actually here and he dyed his beard? I'm so confused.
But you notice that, like, when he walks on the salt flats,
he doesn't leave any footprints.
Never leaves any markings, and when they focus on his lightsaber, never does any sound when stuff falls on it. It's like all the clues were there. I mean, it was really
but
clever.
You don't realize it the first time.
You don't realize it. No.
Yeah, you don't. And then you have Kylo's reaction is so visceral when he sees him walking out. Kylo's just like, what? Shoots everything
that we have.
Yeah. And then he keeps like more. He's so terrified.
Yeah.
And then the guy even has to stop him, and he pushes him against the wall, like, shut the fuck up. I'm doing this. I am destroying this motherfucker. And then he just walks through it, and he's just like,
you can't. You don't mess with Master Luke.
Yeah. And then I was like, I know. And then at this point, I'm just like, so what's actually happening? And then the fight is short, but the way they look at each other.
Yeah.
Everything. Like you said before, like, I'm not here to give you forgiveness. That's not it. It's this. very emotional fight between them. And then when you actually realize that he astral projected, like
badass.
Luke astral projected, and he's
Like
flying
like a Jedi master.
yeah,
Like a true
grand
like a
master.
Jedi god. He's just flying in meditative position, and he astral projected for that long and actually engaged in a fight.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Which yes. That goes with, there's my head canon that the actual, like, Luke actually felt, and every attack actually affected him because his astral form is
He
still
felt it in
taking
his soul.
damage.
He still feels guilty about Kylo and what happened with Kylo.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, that's his biggest regret, I think.
I mean, it's so, and I especially like how it ends with, you know, just Kylo, you know, doing the pokey poke.
The first time, and then he being like, I realize it, and then he actually pokes him, and it's like, see you around, kid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. Like the see you around kid that they don't pay off. It's like, how do you set that? That was perfect for the next movie to follow up with Luke hunting Kylo or doing some interaction with him.
No, and that's what he told him. If you hurt me in anger, I will haunt you, just like your father. I will haunt you. There's so much promise coming from Jedi, and there was so much you could have done. You could have had, Mo?
No. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah, unfulfilled.
Then we move to Rise of Skywalker, and like I feel like every single lightsaber fight in that movie is basically the opposite of all the previous fights we have been discussing. In a way, they're so detached. I feel like they're always shot like, you know, from panoramic positions, so you're always looking like from afar. I don't know. They feel so like they don't want to be there in a way, especially like that fight with them on the Death Star wreckage.
Oh, I actually have to disagree with you on that one. I rewatched it. I actually loved that fight.
I hate it so much. It's just like,
I love
it doesn't feel like they want to even be there.
No. I actually disagree with you on that one highly, because one, you're in the Death Star wreckage, and it starts, you know, with her being in like the room where the Emperor was. So you have that amazing visual, and that's where they first meet each other
looks
again.
great. Yeah.
And then you have, this is the darkest that Rey becomes. Like, she just had the vision of dark gray. She's going into her darkness. She's embracing it, and when she sees Kylo Ren, she's pissed.
Yeah.
But then you have it on water. It's kind of the opposite of the Mustafar fight.
Yes. Absolutely.
So you have the fight going on the water, and the visuals are actually even more amazing with the water and everything. And it's not a greatly choreographed fight. They're both very angry, but then you have that Leia gives her own life to get through to Ben in that moment. And she doesn't just get through to Ben, she gets through to Rey. Ben drops the lightsaber and she kills him, then heals him. I don't want to talk about healing powers. But when she feels it too, when she killed Ben, she went dark side there. And then knowing that she lost Leia breaks her too, and makes her reassess her belief in the light. And so does it for Ben. I mean, as soon as he hears his mother saying his name in his head, he drops the saber.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something extremely cathartic about that fight. Like, the movie doesn't start off that bad. It just turns into the spiral of crap.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I actually cried during that, like on the theater, like seeing that scene.
That scene, or when Han Solo shows up?
No, that scene. No, that, like, the Han Solo part, also okay-ish with that. It could have been. I thought it was gonna be Anakin, honestly.
We'll have an episode on that.
Oh my god! If it would have been Anakin,
right?
That would have been something else.
It would have put everything into perspective, right? But apart from that, I remember like crying. Like I have emotional reaction to that scene. Like I think it's one of the most beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it portrays that it's that fine line of if you want to keep balance, you're always dancing in both sides within the light and the dark, and then how do you keep yourself there? That's a challenge.
No, and there's something.
Fair points.
There's something
but why do you hate it? I guess.
Okay, because Mo, you and me are kind of agreeing. Why do you hate it?
I mean, it's just the whole Leia thing did the opposite. I had the opposite reaction to it. Did nothing for me. It's just like it felt like a cop out to like be able to defeat him type of thing. It's just didn't. I mean, and I know they were kind of locked into a corner about what to do with Leia because Carrie not being able to film anything for the movie. But like I don't know. I didn't feel it. Like it had zero impact on me, and like that fight, it just felt like they weren't doing anything, and it achieved like nothing to an extent.
I disagree.
Stabs him, she heals him, she leaves.
No. You have it's fire and water. It's kind of like the same crucible that Anakin went through. Yeah. Anakin went through the fire, and this is like the purifying water, and it actually made them better people at the end. The follow-up isn't good, but the actual fight, I really loved it, actually, upon rewatch. I think Rise in general kind of sucks, but it has its moments, and one of them is...
moments.
Yeah, it has its moments.
It's a Star Wars movie. It's always going to have a good moment.
But that fight, I thought, was actually really good.
Maybe I need to rewatch it with less hatred in my heart.
I'm totally with
that.
Like
cathartic and beautiful.
It is. And not only the water element is just extraordinary. Like, because it's both what's used as the life source, but it's also a complete destroyer. Like that's also goes back to that cycle. Like the giver and the destroyer are one the same. Which goes back to I just killed you, I destroyed you,
and then I saved you.
Now I save you. And a part of me now wants to like rewatch and see if for some reason she stabs him with her right hand, and if she heals him with her left hand. For some reason, I want to see that.
Damn, you want to see that balance?
Now I want to see if that's there, because if that's there, it's gonna blow my mind.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention.
No, I haven't. It just popped into my head. No, like if that balance is
I love it. Yeah, right hand destroys, left hand heals. Kind of
interesting.
Maybe I'm watching way too many Full Metal.
You love it. I know you do.
I'll rewatch that fight. I'll give it another shot because.
Anyway, and then we get the final fight, which just
was the anti-Praetorian Guard fight where you're like focused in like a really cool choreography with the camera very dynamic on the characters, like this whole like Emperor's Guard fight with Rey, and Ben with the Knights of Ren is just so detached from them in a way. It's always filmed like from outside. You don't really.
No, it doesn't really feel like it's happening. There's no intimacy.
And it's all washed out in blue.
No, and you don't really feel any intimacy in that one. Like this is actually the first time, because when they're fighting the Praetorian Guard, it's like they're working together, but they're working together for that point. They're not actually combined. At this point, they actually do become the dyad. They are actually connected. And then they have them fight a fight separately.
Yeah.
Develop new transport powers. Like I put a lightsaber here and then suddenly it shows up in my hand. Like
sure. It's the Force. Force does what you need it to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
And then it's supposed to be the final lightsaber fight of the Skywalker saga, and the actual lightsaber fight goes on for like a minute.
Yeah. And then they don't even fight together.
Kylo defeats the Knights of Ren, who he trained personally in a couple hits.
He didn't train them.
Didn't he?
No, he didn't.
No.
No.
Was he supposed to be able to beat them in one hit?
Oh no, no. I wouldn't go that far. But
what's their relationship? Were they like best friends? Did they just knew each other?
The Knights of Ren, were they best friends?
I'm actually asking because I assume that Kylo trained them and they were the Knights of Ren.
No, they're not a boy band. No.
I'm legit asking because
the backstory for the Knights of Ren is in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic books, which are actually pretty good. So basically, the Knights of Ren have always been like a group that was developed obviously post Return of the Jedi, and they were led. No, Return of the Jedi. It was after the Emperor was defeated.
So the First Order
became like a dark side group, but they're unaffiliated with the First Order. They were just a group of Force sensitives that were formed around the dark side of the Force, but they're not Sith. So they were formed around like this one guy who called himself the Ren, because that's what he used to call his red lightsaber, which Luke fights them, and he kicks their ass. But then after Kylo Ren burns the Jedi Temple and leaves the Luke's Jedi Academy, he goes searching for them because Snoke tells him he's been communing with Snoke, and Snoke tells him, you should seek them out and see if they'll accept you into their ranks. So he does, and they have he has to go through an initiation process where he actually has to murder somebody, but out of hatred and whatnot. And once he does that, he actually kills, if I'm remembering correctly, he kills the leader of the Knights of Ren, and then he becomes the master of the Knights of Ren. But the Knights of Ren have, from the shadows, always been controlled by Palpatine. That's why they're there in Exegol, and that's why they kind of turn against him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the short version of the Knights of Ren.
Which, again, kind of disproves the fact that Kylo kind of destroys all of them with one hit. That fight is very unimpressive. You've been talking about the Knights of... Yeah, you've been talking about the Knights of Ren since the first one.
And then they go down like chumps.
Yeah, and then they go... No, the whole fight is just so... If Mustafar on the 1, 2, 3 trilogy is this exaggerated ending to it, this one was the most underwhelming lightsaber fight.
Yes,
and it's not only the end of a trilogy, it's the end of the saga. And then you have this just one random fight and
then double lightsabers to go against them.
Yeah, and then double lightsabers, and then it gets her killed somehow because she found the strength of the Force. I'm the last Jedi, but it kills me. And then Kylo survives and then saves her, and then he died. Just the end completely destroys it for me. It's just, I get some elements of it. I guess how some of it could be explained, but the actual end of it is horrifying. Because this entire series is supposed to be about hope.
Yeah.
And then you finally get a dyad working together that could actually save and bring balance and actually maybe separate yourself from light dark.
Yeah.
And just be Force users. And maybe reconnect with Ahsoka somehow. Now that we're, now that we're not being ignorant idiots. And what do? They kill Ben. They kill the entire
the saga.
Skywalker family. They make Rey a Poppleton, which would have made sense if they said it from the beginning, but it makes no sense in the actual story.
Palpatine's plan also doesn't make sense in that movie. Why are you telling him to kill her if you don't want to kill her? It's what?
I don't know. Because it makes no sense.
It's doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It makes no sense.
There
was no end. There's no end goal, and now you have just Rey by herself.
Yep, exactly. She ends the saga where she started by herself.
There's no growth.
No growth. Yep.
Yeah.
But then I'm gonna intervene here. Strip. What if it's a Mobius strip?
We come back around.
She's still the same, but that's she went through her own journey. So now,
I think that's what they were trying to get at with the whole poetry thing. So it is that I think that's what they were going for. But like, I don't think it narratively makes sense, especially like in the context of Star Wars, because Star Wars is always about found family and coming together, and like, I think it defeats the purpose of her journey for her to end up alone when she's always been seeking belonging and family.
And she found a
But-
family,
but-
and
but-
they killed all of them.
Yeah.
But isn't it as equal as finding belonging within yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That's the flip to it.
True,
No,
but
no. I'm okay with that, Mo. Like finding a family within yourself. I get that. That's cool, but that's not gonna hug you. Like
No, true. but it would actually make you be able to interact with others on their level. If that makes sense.
No, and I understand you, and I think she does find some acceptance of herself, but I think it's kind of a punishment that they leave her all alone. I mean,
yeah, agreed.
These movies from the beginning, they were all about hope, and fine, there's like a little hint of like maybe something, but that's not what the Skywalker saga at the end should have been. It should have been about actual hope. I see no reason why you can't have Ben and Rey survive, and be a Skywalker and a Palpatine at this point.
She loses everything. She loses her master and Luke.
Yeah.
She loses
and
her
then
mentor and Leia.
Combining together and actually bringing balance, because you can't bring balance just by having an order of men and women who believe in one thing as opposed to other things. You need the balance. And I think if you would have had them survive, both of them, powerful dyad, you could have taken the films and everything, the lore to the future, into directions that we can't even imagine, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
That is totally...
Big out.
Totally what, Mo? That's totally what.
Like in line, like it would have made such a different ending. And it would have made it so much more worth it.
So circling back though to, I think we're getting distracted from the main topic though.
The actual lightsaber
fights themselves.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of discussed all the films, do we want to like maybe make a top?
A ranking?
Yeah, not all. I think that's too many. Top 3.
Like a top 3.
Let's start with you, Mo. Well, based on like a conversation, which would be apparently, I think the Rise of Skywalker has a place maybe in your list.
I don't know. Good question. The top 3, and no particular order. I'm gonna say the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul.
Solid choice.
I think I'm gonna say, probably that the Rise of Skywalkers, that the Mustafar, I mean, not the Mustafar, the Death Star.
On the Death Star wreckage. Yeah.
And then I'm torn. I can't say like one over the other, because between both Empires and the Last Jedi's, both fights, I guess top 4. There you go.
Okay, good. How about you, Nani?
I kind of, for first, just because, and obviously nostalgia comes into this, because and the way I see them and I love them. So for first, I actually tie Empire and Return. So I have Empire and Return, both of them tied for first. Then
Return, interesting. Okay.
Empire and Return, yes, tied.
Okay.
And then I have the Rise lightsaber battle.
Interesting. I like how we do like a Rise of Skywalker bashing every episode, but somehow it's still in the top.
No, but when I was rewatching all of them and I saw them in a row, I saw that
parallel with Mustafar.
Yeah, and the way that it was done and the emotions to it. And by the way, we hadn't pointed out yet that the Dooku fucking terrible fight was trying to kind of imitate Empire, which makes it even worse because it's the first time that you see them like moving objects to hit people.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Good point.
Then it was like,
terrible. Yeah.
No. When Darth Vader does it, it's cool. When Dooku does it and Yoda suddenly overpowered, it's ridiculous.
Like I'm just, today it's not my good day.
Yes, that's not a good day.
Yeah. And then for third, the Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon against Darth Maul. And I think we never actually talked about the fight between Yoda and Poppleton.
Oh, and Palpy. Oh, I hate that fight though.
I hate that fight. I know, but it needs to be pointed out. I hate that fight.
Yeah. It's
just thinning. It's just weird. Like you wouldn't expect, the epitome of the Darth, like the Sith, and the epitome of the Jedi, to be
throwing shit at each other.
Throwing shit like kids.
It's like toddlers. Exactly.
And then what makes me so sad is because there's an actual good scenery to it when they first show up and you see the entire Senate. It's empty.
It looks cool. Yeah.
But then the fight is just ridiculous because I think that fight was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's completely unnecessary. You don't need Yoda against Poppleton.
Yeah. Oh my god, so bad. It's so bad.
I guess we all ignored the fact that it exists because we
there's no point. There's no point to this.
But it's an actual saber fight.
It is
true.
It is.
It is actually. I think it's probably longer.
It's one of the longest ones, actually.
One of the longest ones.
Oh, and we actually forgot also to talk about Mace Windu against Poppleton.
That's also a bad fight.
It's terrible, but Mace Windu actually defeats Poppleton.
Yeah, he does. He kicks it.
Yeah,
true.
But you can tell that it's two geriatrics fighting because like it's a little bit better than the Alec Guinness lightsaber fight on New Hope, but still you can still tell that Sam Jackson. He looks great, but he doesn't move as well as Ewan McGregor.
No, but then you CGI Palpatine like spinning through the air like an avatar.
Yeah, it's like he has a couple of seconds of like really cool moves, and then then it's Ian McDermott doing his old man stick waving.
I know.
And then like the beginning of that fight always pisses me off because like it's Mace shows up with like 4 or 5 Jedi, and all of them go down like punks. Like in 2 seconds.
Again, I told you the prequels very, very much underestimate the power of the Jedi's.
It's like
we also forgot not a lightsaber fight, but Rogue One when Darth Vader pulls out the saber.
Hallway scene.
Yes.
Not a lightsaber fight, but definitely.
I know. I watched it too. We were watching them in a row, and I picked Rogue One, and my husband was immediately like, Darth Vader hallway scene. Like, yes.
I could definitely watch that scene
over and over and over and over.
Did I ever send you guys like that video of someone put like that scene? Don't Stop Me Now.
Yes.
From Queen. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Don't stop me now. Oh my god.
So good.
Yeah. So as soon as I picked Rogue One, he's like, Darth Vader always scene. It's like, it's not technically.
It is not, but it's still a great scene.
But it is. It's the Vader that we wanted. It's the Vader that we needed.
Yes.
At this point, because he was so, I don't know, unbelievable in the prequels, and then you actually see him, and it's just there's a fluidity of movement that I think is what George Lucas would have wanted from the originals, because he does not hesitate. Obviously, you didn't have the technology to do it then, but you do it now in this little hallway scene, and there's no hesitation. He's just like, force here, lightsaber here, just destruction. Like, he doesn't even stop moving, and he walks slowly like a horror character.
Yep.
He's just like, he gets zero craps. He's walking very slowly. Everybody's running away from him, but he's just like, I am a force that you cannot deal with.
Yeah, no one is gonna stop me.
And I'm
And
saying
it's epic.
Lucasfilm
And-
should venture into doing a
Horror.
horror slasher.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh,
I would
Vader,
definitely watch
Vader.
a Vader horror movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just
Even
everybody
if it's just
panic.
like, even if they just released if they did the horror movie and it's just like that scene just for 2 hours, yes, I'm in.
Yes.
Yes.
No, but come out. You don't even know how many missions he had to go on. Once he became Vader.
Many murder missions.
Many actual murder missions.
Well,
You
They're
could
ever-
really do a horror story from
Yeah.
Vader.
There was I
mean,
haven't
the
read
children.
the Darth
Look at the
Vader. I
children.
haven't read the Darth Vader comic books, but I saw online one panel of one of the pages from one of the comic books that like Vader is surrounded by a bunch of rebels, and like they happen like, oh, you're surrounded, give up, something like that, and Vader just activate, like the next panel is Vader activating his lightsaber, and he says, just all I see, all I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. I'm like, oh yes, that
Fear
that
and
is-
dead men.
Yes,
It's just,
and like that is Vader.
I know.
That's the true
I know.
Vader. Well, Gus, what about you? What are your
Yeah,
top
what are
three?
your favorites?
It's obviously the Rise of Skywalker is not on my top three, but my tippy top is always going to be Empire Strikes Back. That fight has a very special place in my heart. The Praetorian Guard fight from Last Jedi also ranks up there. I don't know if it would be 2 or 3. So these next two are not necessarily in order. But the Praetorian Guard fight from Last Jedi, and then obviously Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Darth Maul.
And Darth Maul.
This would be my 3.
I think we got pretty close. I think
Yeah,
Bruce didn't
yeah.
agree with us
So
with
there's a
the
lot of overlap, except
Yeah.
Rise
with the
of Skywalker.
Rise one. Yeah, I know.
But not Gus gonna rewatch it and then be back.
I think you
saying,
should rewatch it,
"Oh,
honestly.
I'll rewatch it. I don't promise anything. Though.
And you don't need to promise it, but there was something extremely cathartic about that fight, and seeing it after I just didn't watch the movies, just watched all the lightsaber fights and watching, close to enough that fight in Mustafar, and then watching the redemption that it is on, and it's on the remains, the carcass of the Death Star, and how they kind of transcend that too. Both of them find, I know she leaves at the end, whatever, but they both find the light in that one fight. And there was something incredibly beautiful about
theoretically,
it. Yeah.
Practically, I don't know.
But it hurts your heart because you hate Rise.
I don't hate Rise. Like I actually rewatched it not too long ago, and like it's a Star Wars movie. It's always gonna have enjoyable things.
I know, but it's
just
not.
like, as
the end.
As a capping as a ending to 9 films, it was very lackluster.
No, this is the problem. It wasn't even lackluster as the ending of the 9 films. It was lackluster as the end of a trilogy, period.
Yeah.
Like if this would have been the end of any of the trilogies, it doesn't work. So it didn't work that way either. And then it's supposed to be the end of the entire Skywalker saga, and it works even less, which it has its moments. It is. It's still beautiful, and it really does have its moments, but it's very unfulfilling for the story. I don't know what they were thinking.
Well, I know what they were thinking. They wanted to appease the angry fans.
Last
that
Jedi
picked up the Last Jedi. But we'll discuss that in a full episode. We will go into a full deep dive on the Rise of Skywalker.
I like how we always bash the Rise of Skywalker in every episode.
Well, but it's not. I like to think that we do it in a constructive way, in a way.
And at the end of the day, Mo, you and I accepted that one of the best lightsaber fights all throughout is one of the lightsaber fights on Rise. Rise has its value.
It's not blind hatred like Last Jedi haters have. It's just
we can accept what we love about it.
We accept what's good and what's not.
Exactly.
The end is just unacceptable.
And that, like it's also the fight that it's mostly focused on the faces. Like usually it's a little bit more distance, but there's so much going on with like the faces. Like I think that's when you have like the best acting from like Adam Driver and like Daisy Ridley, like because they're actually just expressing that raw emotion. And
yeah, that one
without
battle in
speaking,
Rise.
Without, yeah.
Yeah.
That one, yeah,
that
that
he,
one battle.
she feels betrayed because she almost turned him, and she's betrayed that she wasn't able to do it, and she's angry, and she is almost dark side. I wish we could have gotten a little bit of more from Dark, right? I mean, that lightsaber that folds in on itself.
That's so cool.
And it's so cool. I mean,
less than a minute. It's like,
and it was nothing, and I think that needed to be explored.
It was like a tease, and then
then it's like, oh, it's done. And hi, oh, we're back to the fetch quest of the fetch quest of the fetch quest. That is Rise.
Oh yeah, the fucking MacGuffin search.
I know, but that the fight is. It's the first time they've seen each other since they were like almost allies and then become enemies again. And there's something very beautiful about it in the water and Leia. I know obviously if we could have had Leia for forever, Leia would have probably gotten Kylo back to the light side just by herself. Because he wasn't able to kill her.
No.
He had the shot and he couldn't do it.
Hey, you can't kill your mom.
He killed his dad.
Exactly. You can't kill your mom. Bringer of life.
No. There's something, I don't know. And then even when it happens after the fight, when Han Solo shows up, which would have been really cool. It would have been Luke as well. But Han Solo showing up as well, it's like, you're just a memory. Yeah, you are. But you're accepting this memory now. Like, you're actually opening up to the fact that I'm a part of your heart.
Yeah, no, that was a good scene. Bringing Han Solo back. I thought it was clever, even though I think it would have been more powerful if it had been Anakin or Luke. But whatever. Or Rise of Skywalker.
No, I know. I feel... I really wish that Luke and Kylo could have made their peace, honestly. Because Luke admitted himself that he was just terrified of the raw power in him and the fact that there's darkness in them from their line, period. And he freaked out and tried to kill them in a moment of weakness, but I think he rejected that for the rest of his life. And I love, obviously, the fight that they have between them, but I wish that they could have come to some sort of, I don't know, understanding between them. I would have liked to see that.
I think maybe we have to talk about all of this in Rise when we discuss Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I think we are getting completely out of topic because we got here to talk about saber fights, and now we're getting incredibly off track.
But I think we touched on most lightsaber fights, or at least the important ones.
Yeah, I think we met our goals for the day. I think we should definitely like adjourn the Rise of Skywalker for our future episode, and maybe wrap up for today. I think.
So, guys, we have just rated our favorite lightsaber fights. Please, if there are any watchers, let us know what you think. What are your rankings? If we are terribly wrong about anything, we like comments. Please go ahead. This is the Triad of the Force. We just talked about all the lightsaber fights. We love them. We would like your commentary again. I think we're done, boys.
Cheers.
Buenas noches.
And that's a wrap.
Buenas noches.